Welcome back to Stab the Dragon Productions for episode number 263, and what may be the beginning of a new series called Random Scotch Whiskies I've Known. We'll be looking at Glenmorangie Signet. Coming to you from Fort Worth, Texas on Sunday, April 26, 2026, where it is currently 85 degrees. And had a tornado in the area last night. A lot of tornadoes everywhere this weekend. I like doing regular whiskey series like my blended Scotch reviews, the Texas Rye Whiskey Studies, Canadian Whiskey Tournament, and most recently an Irish Whiskey Studies series. But once in a while, I'm enjoying a good whiskey that just doesn't seem to fit in any of my regular schedules or categories, and I really think it should be reviewed, and then I don't do it. Now, years ago, I've shoehorned in some of those, in those oddball whiskeys in at various times, but not in any kind of a neat or systematic way. And really, in fact, those early days of the show were pretty much totally chaotic and mixed up. So starting today, I'm going to begin this somewhat irregular series, a once-in-a-while thing. So Random Scotch Whiskies I Have Known will help me clean up some strays and give some semblance of order. So, on to Glenmorangie. Just the facts. This is a Highland single malt. It's an annual release from Glenmorangie that is non-age stated, but that doesn't mean it's young. There's some stuff in here that is quite old, actually. And they blend it all together. So there's going to be maybe some younger stuff in here, but there's a lot of very old stuff in here as well. So it's non-age stated, but this weighs in at 92 proof, and it costs about $280 here in Fort Worth. This bottle was gifted to me by my cousin. Tasting notes. This is malty, mildly sweet with a lot of chocolate notes and some nuttiness. I gave it a score of 96. Letter grade for drinkability, A+. My recommendation, this is an amazing, super premium Scotch that, to me, majors in a chocolate note for, I rarely get that, but definitely chocolate in here. It's got a burn to match the proof, which I enjoy, but not everybody does, so perhaps a word of caution there. The price, again, is close to $300, and it is a bit hard to find. So happy hunting for you serious Scotch whiskey lovers. Now, we're going to do something a little bit different. Because I'm not about to make a cocktail with this, I did want to do something different. And so we're going to do a comparison. I have here the Glenmorangie 10 along with the Signet. And so I'm going to do a taste comparison because this is the low end of Glenmorangie, and this is obviously towards the high end. So I have two glasses. Here is the 10-year-old. Here is the Signet. And so you can see a substantial difference in color there. And I don't think that's due to food coloring being added to the Signet at all. I think that's age. Now, the Glenmorangie 10 is really wonderful. I like it a lot. There's no peat. I tend to like peat, but I also like unpeated whiskeys. And so it's a very smooth, enjoyable single malt. You get a lot of the maltiness, a little bit of fruit. And let me see what this is proofed at. This is an 86 proof. So this is, quite the enjoyable pour. But now we're going to compare it with the Signet. the silkiness and the full-bodied nature of the feeling in the mouth that you get from this. The Signet is obviously thicker, richer in every way. And again, I get those chocolatey notes. I don't really get much of the fruit, unless you're looking at dark fruit, maybe. Something along the lines of figs, plums, raisins. Whereas the Glenmorangie 10, lighter fruits, like maybe apple, pear, even some citrusy. So there's a big texture difference here. And just, going off of flavor profile and mouthfeel, burn, and finish, that Signet is clearly the superior. And that's nothing against the Glenmorangie 10. It's a fine whiskey, and it's more in my price range, obviously. But I can see a little bit of a relationship there. If I didn't know there was a relationship, I might not be able to pick that out. I'm just not that good at discerning, what's what. So anyway, to me, they're both good whiskeys, but clearly one is the superior. So let's go ahead and get into the Signet and look at some of the details here. The history: Glenmorangie in Gaelic means Valley of Tranquility. The whiskey dates back to 1843, and a farmer who had already worked for another distillery named William Matheson, who, with his wife Anne, built this distillery in the Scottish Highlands in Rothshire near the town of Tain. Prior to his distillery, there had been a brewery there on site, and some records indicate production of spirits even all the way back to the 18th century. The distillery was purchased, though, by MacDonald and Muir in 1918, and the distillery experienced the same downturns as all the others, with the American Prohibition experiment, then the Great Depression and World War II. But by 1948, it was running at full production once again. The distillery went from 2 stills to 4 in 1977. In 2002, they added 2 more, and in 2009, 4 more. And in 2004, the MacDonald family sold the distillery to the French company LVMH Hennessy Cognac. And there was some rebranding that resulted in different bottle shapes and packaging, and included some French names for some of the whiskeys. So obviously they're trying to market this into France and further into Europe. This Signet edition was released for the first time in 2008. It's not listed on their website. I think the website only lists the regular editions that are always in production, and this is an annual production. So 5 out of 5 for history. Bottle, label, and packaging. Now, the store where my cousin bought this failed to keep the box, so I've got a box here that's that it came in, but it's not the right box. So the store just didn't have the right box, so I don't have that. But the bottle itself is quite unique and imposing. First of all, this is heavy. I'm thinking it's a pound heavier than the Glenmorangie 10. A pound. So I don't know what's going on here, but the cap alone, I mean, that's heavy. I don't know what they got in there. Lead, solid steel, who knows? It's got a real cork, but that's heavy. But even without this heavy cap, this bottle's reinforced. I don't know what they've done to it, but this is a very heavy, imposing bottle. And then you can see the color of the glass, black up here. You can't see through it at all. Down here you can see through a little bit, and it turns into more of a red amber color, so you can see some of it down there. And then the label is, printed it's not an actual label. It's like printed on the glass, I think. Gold. This is some kind of a Celtic artwork going on there. Gaelic, Celtic. And there's, it's got the essential information on here. 750 milliliters, 46% alcohol by volume, or 92 proof. And on the back, it's got the government warning. So there's not a hoo-ha statement. There's not any history going on here. It's a very basic, though classy label. And the bottle is just imposing. This is amazing. And this is an example of, if you're going to do a fancy whiskey, you need a fancy bottle. And this is it. So this is really amazing. 5 out of 5 for bottle, label, and packaging. The appearance of this whiskey, can't really tell much there in the bottle, but here, you can look at it in the glass. It's a very dark Scotch, which, keep in mind, there's some stuff in there about 20 years old. And I think this is all natural. I don't think they did any food coloring. And some of the whiskeys in here are aged in sherry casks. And then they also use chocolate malt barley. I don't know. I don't think that's going to affect the color. I think color is going to be strictly from the barrel and the barrels that you use. But so there's some sherry in there. And I think I smell that a little bit. Think chocolate covered cherries. There you go. So for appearance, 4 out of 5. Composition, again, this is a 46% or 92 proof. This comes from the Highland area. It is a single malt. They draw their water from the Tarlogie Springs near the distillery. And at some point, they had to actually buy more land to protect those springs because there was some kind of a housing development or industrial development somewhere going on in that area. And they said, you can't mess with our water source, so we bought the land there around the springs. They use chocolate malt barley, and it comes from a co-op of farmers there in the area around Tain. And then the casks come from this is interesting, a Glenmorangie-owned forest of white oak in the Ozarks of Missouri, United States. Who knew? I mean, I knew they got their oak casks from America, but they actually own part of a forest in Missouri. That's pretty cool. And so then these casks are aged in the open year for 2 years. And I never knew that about whiskey casks until I studied Woodinville whiskey out of Seattle, or actually Washington, not in Seattle. But they age their casks for a couple of years before they even use them. And then they lease their casks to Jack Daniels and Heaven Hill for bourbon aging for 4 years. Then, after those barrels are emptied of their bourbon, they are shipped to Scotland. Now, the Signet is aged in bourbon, sherry, and virgin oak casks. So that's a triple cask variety there. And again, there's no age statement on the bottle, but they are saying that some of the stuff in here is up to about 20 years. So there you go. Now, where did this idea come from? It was released in 2008. The director of whiskey creation, Dr. Bill Lumsden, was inspired by his favorite coffee to explore the dark side of whiskey. Well, I can say well done. So yeah, maybe there's some coffee notes in here. I'm getting chocolate, but I see the coffee there also. And it's only distilled once a year. It's an annual release. It's not available all the time. So for composition, a very rare 15 out of 15 points here. Nose. Now my allergies are way bad right now here in Texas, but on the nose, I do get some maltiness, but I do get also a little bit of chocolate cherry note. So maybe like a cherry Coke while eating a piece of dark chocolate. something like that. So this is kind of almost a dessert kind of a smell. So really, this is a wonderful nose. 9 out of 10 on the nose. Let's go in for the taste. Now, in my whiskey journeys, I like things that bring out leather, tobacco, barrel notes. And what I'm getting here is similar to that, but it's the chocolate, it's coffee, hints of coffee. And this is just amazing. So when they're talking about chocolate barley, I think that I don't know if that's a strain of barley or if it's just a roast, how you roast the barley, something like that, that turns it darker maybe. I'm not sure. But chocolate barley is what they're using here. And that does give it a chocolate flavor. So I absolutely see what that director was doing here and trying to explore the darker side of whiskey and the coffee influence there. So for taste, 24 out of 25. This is magnificent. Mouthfeel, burn, and finish. This has a very rich mouthfeel. I mentioned that earlier when I did the comparison. So it's very oily. It's got full-bodied, noticeable burn, appropriate for the 92 proof. A lot of people are used to lower proof Scotch whiskeys. And so that burn may sneak up on you. It's not, I mean, it is an appropriate burn. It starts in the mouth, goes to the back of the throat, just attempts to go up in the sinuses a little bit. Nothing really going down. For me, this is still a pretty mild 92 proof, but I appreciate the burn. One of the things that draws me to whiskey is the burn, and so this is appropriate and just really wonderful. It's got a long finish, and the chocolate notes linger. So you have the lingering tingles, but you also get that chocolate cherry note. So chocolate covered cherries in a box of chocolates. That's what I'm getting here. 14 out of 15. Versatility and flexibility. Okay, now this is going to be hard. Clearly, this is one of the absolute best whiskeys I've ever tasted. Sipped neat is what this is designed for. I would never, ever, never, ever put this on ice. And neither would I put it in a cocktail. Now, should I take points off for being a neat-only whiskey? No. This whiskey is a super premium Scotch single malt. It is designed to be slow sipped. Neat. That's its whole purpose in life. So you can put it in a cocktail if you want. You can put it on ice if you want. To me, that'd be sinful. I just, no, I don't see that. So 5 out of 5 for being what it's supposed to be, a neat, supreme Scotch whiskey. Price, value, and availability. All right, well, here is another difficult decision. This is only an annual special release, so that makes it harder to find. At the price point of about $280 or so, and you add tax in there, it's gonna be close to $300 in my part of town. So it's a super premium whiskey. This is available in Fort Worth, in my part of town at least, only at Total Wine for $279.99. And so the fact that this premium Scotch whiskey is available at one store in my part of the city, that's good enough. Absolutely. Is the price worth the value? Now, keep in mind, I was gifted this bottle. On my budget, I'm not going to go out there and buy something like this. But I'm looking at the price, I'm looking at the quality, and I'm saying, this is worthy of the price. Absolutely. So this is a 10 out of 10 for price, value, and availability. Not always, but sometimes price and quality go together, and that is the case here. Bonus points. Again, this is just an amazing Scotch, single malt, unpeated, very rich history, beautiful bottle, amazing palate, amazing nose. It lives up to the super premium mystique. So for bonus, 5 out of 5 points. And this gives me a total score of 96. Letter grade for drinkability, A+. Now this is an example of what a truly artisanal super premium whiskey is capable of achieving. For those who are a bit proof sensitive, I would toss out a caution. It does have a proof appropriate burn for 92 proof. I find it wonderful. Some may not be able to tolerate that. If you love getting hints of chocolate in whiskey, this one has it for sure. It's an unpeated Highland Scotch, so drink the special whiskey well. All right, next up, I am considering a political post. I mean, they attempted to kill my president again last night. So I don't know if I'll get that this next week or not, but at the very least, I'm going to be returning to my Texas Rye Whiskey Studies, and we will look at Basil Hayden's Malted Rye. And then after that one, we will look at Pendleton 1910 Rye, which is a 12-year-old rye. And it's from Oregon, but it's from Canada. Okay, it's Canadian rye. And then we'll do a tournament with those two, a matchup. So that's coming up on Stab the Dragon Productions and Texas Rye Whiskey Studies. Out here.